Tim and I talked about the best way to be able to help other families after our son got sober. We started with a support group, but nobody came. And so we thought, what's the best way we can have an impact on our community, knowing what it was like to have a person dealing with addiction and then watching them recover. In March of 2018, we launched Road to Recovery CNY, and our mission is to help people who are struggling with addiction and their families move into long-term recovery. And we have several different programs that we use to accomplish that.
I've been chemically dependent on heroin, ketamine, Xanax, and synthetic marijuana when it came around. I've done most of them, had a problem with most of them, but those actually were every day, hour to hour, super habitual things. It wasn't just partying, having fun. Those are I need those to continue my day.
Probably 13, I smoked weed for the first time, and it wasn't anything I don't know. And then I would smoke quite a bit this summer, going into high school. And then I ended up moving to Pennsylvania, and the end of my freshman year is when I started smoking a lot of weed, drinking, stuff like that. Once I tried ecstasy, I was this. That was the first time that I found a drug where I was this is it. This is what I want to do. And that's when things took a very dark turn in my life.
So what I found after coming forward with our story, I had people come up to me at work and say, I really respect you and Darlene for doing that story, and my own son is dealing with addiction, and can you help us? And we realized that there was a huge amount of need out in the community for something like this.
My struggles with addiction started in high school, around sophomore year of high school. Started off as a social thing with a lot of my buddies and the people I knew. As time went on, they all kind of kept in the social area, and I got more involved on a daily basis type thing. When I was, first started off, it was, hydros, Percocets, Oxys, kind of the lower level stuff. But, as they all started, going on with their life, I kept going down that path.
One of the things that stops people from reaching out for help is the stigma that's associated with this disease, because they haven't maybe experienced in the past when they've reached out for help a judgmental attitude, and they're reluctant to experience that again. So it's important for people to share their stories, and I think our being open about it helped a lot of people, just letting them know that they're not alone.
Started doing heroin at 13. My mom was a full-fledged heroin addict, and lifestyle was not obviously of the upscale, and a lot of things were crazy and hectic in my life. Saw a lot of abuse, saw a lot of drug use, and I always wanted to hang out with my mom. I wanted to be cool, so I tried everything I could just to be around her all the time.
I wish people could see what Darlene and I see, because they come to us at the very worst. I mean, they're really desperate. For example, with our son, when Darlene took him down and we got him arranged to a detox recovery unit, our strapping 6'2" athlete was down to 145 pounds and doing 6 bags of heroin a day. And we knew that he was very close to death, no question. And then to see him go through a program like that it's healing not only externally but internally. Because when you talk to him, he's centered, he's happy, he's made peace with himself, and he's dealing with his addiction, where addiction and recovery is a daily process, and he's embraced that.
My folks and the volunteers that I got to meet saw that it can work. Not only me being sober, but how I've transformed as a person, you know, I show up on a whole different level to life. You know, I have a different perspective on it and a different relationship with it, you know, and I think that inspired some other people to want other people to get help too.
So Justin, obviously was like one of my best friends growing up. Also like running buddy, like we used to like party, just doing whatever together and, you know, doing a lot of drugs together. And all of a sudden like this person's like happy, joyous and free and healthy. And when he was like someone I thought I was gonna have to go to their funeral. And so he like went back to, you know, Austin. And so I like texted him and I was just like, like, do you think I'm a drug addict? and like definitely more like scattered terms, but I was just like, is my life out of control? And he was like, I mean, like there's a better life out there for you. And then next thing I knew, it was like I'm on the phone with somebody at Spearhead Lodge or like at Missions at BRC, and I'm like involved in this like organization that's like sending me to Texas. It was like just talking to like one person, then that person talked to another person, and then all of a sudden I was in Austin.
We don't have to live like this anymore, and there is something different. Like there's hope, and you know, coming from where I've come from, I know that we can do something differently if we want it, and if you're willing to change, you know? Like it doesn't take much, just that little bit of willingness, just wanting something a little bit more than wanting the drugs and alcohol. Like that's the most important key. If that's all you can do is just a hair more at that moment, that's enough to get you where you need to be.
I just want to say that, you know, what they've done for me is nothing compared to what they can do for all the people out there that are still struggling today, you know, and it's just about, you know, continuing to spread this message out there to the people back home that, you know, recovery is possible and there is life after recovery, and it's not just, doesn't have to be a revolving door and, you know, a little bit of time under your belt and going back out and doing the same things over and over again. That, you know, there is life after, you know, the things that you've put yourself through, and there's ways to deal with it.
I can't believe this is my life. Like I'm so happy today, and it's because of like these people like that just like took a chance and were like, all right, you're going to Texas and we're sending you to treatment and we're here for you. You know, I'm like so grateful for that. Like I never thought like this could be my life, and it's like all because of that. And I guess would say like a million thank yous.
The people who come out at the other end of the recovery program, they are unbelievably strong and hardened, because you can't give them a story that they hadn't experienced themselves. And the fact that they've been through the fire and they come out whole and happy makes them such strong members of our society that it's incredible.